Right, we are here again on PFS Seahawks Pro Football Spot Google Hangout, the second one with myself and Ken. How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing great, Stuart. How about yourself?
I'm not too bad, mate. Thank you very much. Right, let's start off with Friday night's news, which is pretty active in terms of news. But the biggest one, obviously, was the new deal for Marshall. First off, what was your initial reaction when you saw the news? And what do you make of the deal now it's been structured? What the...
Well, to answer your question, I was jubilant coming back. You don't want to see him anywhere else instead of the blue and neon green. Heart and soul of the offense, just pounds other defenses with his beast mode style of running. And without him, the Seahawks are in dire need of some other playmakers on offense. So you want to pay the guy, have him play there the rest of his career. Arguably the best back in the league, and just a phenomenal talent to have, and you got to keep him around. So I'm glad they did.
Yeah, it was something which was they had to do, but you weren't sure if he was going to allow them to do it, because he did seem to be seriously considering retiring and walking away, which would have been a pretty hard pill to swallow after how the season ended with everything that happened on the 1 yard line. But yeah, like I said, he is like I said when I wrote about it on Saturday. He is the heartbeat of the team. He is everything that Wilson does. Is a large part of it. It starts off with how Lynch runs and knocks people over and gets up and knocks them over again and stuff. So it had to be done, and it's pay the man as much money as you want, really. I don't think Seattle fans would have minded the money. They just wanted more Marshall and Lynch in 2015.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was absolutely buzzing when it broke on Friday. It was a surprise because it kind of come out of nowhere. You saw him on Turkish TV, then he was signing a 2-year extension and everything. So, elsewhere, targets outside free agents. Obviously, the big one it seems to be Julius Thomas from Denver, the tight end. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it'll be something that happens? Because Jacksonville seem to be pushing for him pretty hard, but
yeah, I think Jacksonville is going to be really keen on getting a weapon for Blake Bortles. Probably going to overpay him, and that's something the Seahawks are just unlikely to do. I mean, we just saw it with them cutting Zach Miller's contract, who could still come back at a discount, but I don't think they're going to be willing to pay Thomas a ton of money. You might see them snag Jordan Cameron, who's been pretty injury-prone, for a lesser price. But I mean, the Jags are keen on getting a good target for Bortles, and that's where I see him going.
Yeah, it does seem like they're out in front, and they're probably more cash rich than Seattle with the contracts, the money they're going to have to pay to Wilson and Wagner, in the Sweezy, and maybe even Bruce Irvin further down the line as well. So you would put them out ahead, and it would be interesting to see if he went to a team who, to Jacksonville, because it would show how good he actually is, and if he was benefiting from who his quarterback was for the last few years. But you look at what he's done in Denver, and it's pretty damn impressive. The only tight end in NFL history with back-to-back seasons of 12 or more touchdowns. That's not bad. I don't think anyone. I think Lynch was the only person with 12 touchdowns for us this year. So
yeah, great red zone threat.
Exactly, that's what we lacked. When Sidney Rice retired, we kind of missed that. Like you always think about his catch against Arizona, his catch against Jacksonville, and he just plucked it out of the air, and Wilson kind of hung them out to dry a little bit. But so, like you mentioned the cost. How high would you go, or before you stopped and like, nah, it's too rich for us? 6, 7, 8 million a year, or?
Yeah, I think I'd land around 6 or 7. I mean, like you said earlier, got a bunch of guys who are going to need to be paid a bunch of money, and we can't really be splashing around in the free agency pool as much as some fans might like. And like, there was no way we were going to pay that money for Byron Maxwell. It's just not going to be our scene this year.
No. Well, this is something they haven't really done since Sidney Rice and Zach Miller, 3-4 years ago. Because last year Kevin Williams was probably the only notable addition in free agency. I can't think of another one. And the year before was Averill and Bennett, but they were pretty low ball, really. I mean, Bennett was 1 year, $5 million. Averill was 2 years, 8.5, I think it was. So we haven't splashed out.
Like that.
We haven't splashed out massively because we haven't really had to, if you think about it. Because the first 3 drafts under Schneider and Carroll were pretty on the money. So, especially obviously 2012 with the first 3 picks being Irvin, Wagner, and Wilson. But elsewhere with Seattle free agents, who else do you think they target? You wrote about Andre Johnson last week, but that was when I think it was more the trade talk. Now he's been released. Do you think there'll be someone of a target, or?
I think he should definitely be a target, and it's just a question of whether Johnson will be okay with not being an 80 reception a year kind of guy in Seattle. That's just not what he's going to be producing. We're a run-first team, and while we do need a number 1 guy who's going to be a trustworthy target for Wilson on any given down, he's not going to be catching 80 balls a year. I mean, Doug Baldwin got around 66 being the number 1 guy this past year.
Yeah.
So anything around that's what Johnson should be expecting.
Well, it's like someone up on Twitter. Someone tweeted on Twitter earlier that Andre Johnson got 14,000 career yards without a quarterback for all of his career. So it's pretty impressive numbers when you think of who he had: David Card and Schaub and whatever the mess was at that position for him last year. So he's still. I mean, how old is he? 34, 35. So he's someone who might, after the years of slogging it out in Houston, he might be okay with taking less catches for a better chance of winning a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, that's the hope. I mean, when he initially heard from Houston that he was going to have a lesser role, he scoffed at it. So it's made me skeptical that he'll do the same thing with Seattle, even though we're a perennial contender nowadays. So if he changes his tune, he'd be a great acquisition.
Yeah, that is a good point on the reason he's a free agent is because, yeah, that is what it is. But it is someone, you look at his measurements and stuff, and obviously look at his production, it is someone, and you look at him, what he could do in our offense, it is pretty enticing to look at that way, but it's something that, I think Carolina was a team who seemed to be the buzz team with him, so that'll be something to watch anyway. So obviously a few weeks passed since the first time we did this, so obviously I'm guessing you've been diving in deeper with the draft and the combine. Is anyone who's catching your fancy that you haven't wrote about yet, or no one's talking about, or?
Oh, it's kind of tough. The ones I've been writing about recently are ones that have really piqued my interest. But I did do a mock draft on another site where I have the Seahawks picking Carlos Williams, the running back out of Florida State, in the 5th round. If you look at a future guy who does need some development, I mean, he played safety for a couple of years at Florida State, so running back's still kind of new to him. But he is that kind of one-cut back that kind of mirrors Lynch. Lynch is a good one-cutter. And if Carlos Williams gets a few years of development and mentorship, I really like him to be the future of the backfield when Marshawn Lynch decides to hang it up.
Yeah, so that is now with the Lynch to this position that they will hit. They always seem to, because they double dip in 20. No, was it Ware and Coleman they bought out a couple of years ago, wasn't it, as well? So it's a position that they always try and target. And with Lynch sticking around, it's interesting to see what they're going to do with Turbin and Christian Michael as well, because you, especially the way Turbin played at times last year, you could imagine that both of them will get a market in some form or another, so it could be one to watch. But Carlos Williams is someone I haven't watched much of. Mike Davis is the winner back I watched, who's a day 3 pick, and he just kind of he's someone you watch and you enjoy watching. He's kind of it just reminds you of watching, like, put him in Seattle's offense. It would be quite fun to watch. But there are players who, one of my favourite players is someone we won't draft, is Jaquiski Tart, the strong safety from Samford. He's Cam Chancellor. He flies around the field and just lays the wood. If you get a chance, I don't know if the video's up on Draft Breakdown, but he's someone that he is going to go higher than people probably realise at this point, because of Cam Chancellor probably more than anything. But he don't have to lay the wood out. So. I like it. Moving on back to Seattle just quickly. Byron Maxwell got $63 million from the Chip Kelly, the Philadelphia Oregon Ducks, as they probably seem to be petition for. What did you make of the money? And what did you make of the money? There's no way Seattle were going to pay that. Was there?
Oh no. I mean, when he announced that he was going to test the market, you knew someone was going to overpay him. You know, it might be Dan Quinn at Atlanta. And as soon as the Eagles started shipping guys out like Kerry Williams, you figured they'd make a splash, especially when they let LaShawn McCoy go. Like a big cap hit, just gone now. But $63 million, I mean, it's an incredible amount of money for Maxwell, who, you know, he was playing in a good secondary and hasn't really been on his own yet. So it's a big financial commitment. I did love Maxwell as a Seahawk, but I just could not fathom giving him that much money.
No, well, I think he's now the 5th highest paid cornerback in the league, and he's not the 5th best cornerback in the league. He's a good player and a great defense. He's getting paid like a great player and a great defense, and look, good luck to him. He's a 6th round pick in 2011, so he has most certainly earned it. He's got the ring to show for the work he's put in here. So, but when I saw those money, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's move on. Let's try and get some. I'd quite like us to go after Kareem Jackson in Houston. I think Matt wrote about him, and he's someone who fits the bill as equally as Maxwell did, but I think he got paid. I think he got 5 years, 34. So the people are splashing out for the cornerbacks, which is quite. It could show that maybe the corners aren't as deep as maybe we expected in this draft class, or maybe they're just showing how important it is now, because the Jets don't have one. They just seem reliant on getting the 2010 defense back with Cromartie and Revis out there now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, who would you the Seahawks have signed Will Blackman tonight. He's probably nothing more than a draft hedge at first, but is there anyone else you'd like them to take a look at in free agency at cornerback, or would you expect it to be a draft?
If it's me in the front office, I just go straight with the draft. Cornerback is pretty deep, especially for first-round talent. You could think about trading up for specific guys, but a good first-round talent will be available for the Seahawks, so I wouldn't dip in there, because I've heard rumors that we're looking at Kerry Williams and Tramon Williams from Green Bay. I live in Wisconsin, so I've seen plenty of Tramon Williams over the years, and the guy's definitely lost a step, and it's just would not be a good investment. So I think you go with young talent. You try and keep developing Harold Simon and Jeremy Lane, but have a solid draft pick at corner for the future.
No, I think the thinking is if you pick up Kerry Williams, and obviously they picked up Will Blackman from Jacksonville, it would be something where you draft the cornerback who isn't already day one in the Seahawks secondary. So there'll be people. Eric Rowe is someone who I've seen Seattle people mention, but he's kind of like he needs to pick a position. He needs to pick a poison effectively. I think it's Utah, and he just fly around. He just fit the measurements as well. So he would be a name you maybe want to look out for. Kevin Johnson from Wake Forest is another one who should be there at 31, and he could even be there if they decide to trade back, which is something Schneider mentioned, that either genuinely or as a smokescreen at the combine. So there are, like you said, there are a few, but if you go out and get a free agent cornerback like Kerry Williams or who's the other Green Bay? Devon House is someone, but I think he's going to be overpaid vastly, ridiculously overpaid. So it's just a case of, is Will Blackman enough to be? You're trusting the player you draft at 31 or 63 or whatever to be a day one start, and it's that cornerback. If you think about it, they haven't traded anyone early, and they haven't traded anyone who started week one, day one. So it's interesting. I do think I don't know who they'll get. I like Kareem Jackson, but he's stayed put. But it would be interesting, especially in the second wave, which is where Schneider seems to do most of his work. It is a position where I think they will go after in in free agency. But it looks like they have a limit. Obviously, 63 million is too much for 31 teams, just not one.
Yeah.
Elsewhere in free agency, his name, I think I saw it last night, being linked. Adrian Claiborne. I think he's in Tampa. He's a defensive end who, if you look again, he's someone I haven't watched much of him, so I'm talking pretty blindly here. But are you surprised to see us being linked with that position again, or?
Yeah, for defensive end, that is a surprise. I actually hadn't heard about those Claiborne rumors.
I just saw one. I think it was on. I just saw one tweet last night. Someone said we were one of the teams waiting in the wings for him.
That's interesting. I mean, Bruce Irvin's kind of a versatile guy, DN/linebacker, but you like him in the future. Gave Averill an extension. Bennett's got an extension, who also plays in the interior. So, especially defensive end, that's kind of a mystery for me. I was envisioning maybe a draft pick or another free agent defensive tackle because we may not get Kevin Williams back, and Jordan Hill just had a season-ending injury, and you want a safety net there. But defensive end's kind of a puzzle for me.
And they've re-signed Scruggs, haven't they, as well? So that's another one. They've got Cassius. They've got Cassius Marsh as well, who was a fourth-round pick last year, and he kind of was redshirted, which they seem to do the last couple of years. I mean, Cassius Marsh is someone who needed probably the year to acclimatise himself to the NFL. So he is someone I'm quite looking forward to watching in 2015. But like you said, they've got Averill, they've paid him, they've paid Bennett. They've got a decision to make probably on Irvin before training camp. I think they have to decide by whether to give him his option, which is I think $6-7 million, which would give him an extra year of control. So yeah, it is. I mean, Claiborne, if you watch his college, I haven't been able to watch any Tampa, any stuff he did in the NFL, but you can see obviously a pickup like Claiborne is you want to go back to the rotation you had in 2013. Obviously, it's injury dependent because it was pretty much a position that was annihilated last year by injury with Meebane and Hill and Scruggs and Marsh and Jesse Williams again. So it is a hint that maybe they found the recipe in 2013 and they're trying to get the ingredients back together. And Claiborne would be reasonable, I think. I think he wouldn't be much, $3-4 million a year. So he is someone who you could probably get on the Bennett Averill deal we got 2 years ago. So it is an interesting one. It's someone which makes a little sense, but with the options and the draft picks they've used on in recent years, it doesn't make as much sense as going after a cornerback at the minute because the cupboard is pretty bare because of injuries back there.
Absolutely. But like you said, if you get them for the right price, could be viable.
Yeah, I think it is something that they need to go back to the rotation because I know you've paid Bennett, you've paid Averill now, and they need to be on the field really. But 2013 was just a perfect storm, really, wasn't it? And everywhere you turned on the defense, it was pretty much a perfect storm. Even signing Will Blackman back today, if you look at the people who beat him to a roster spot when he was cut. I mean, it's Furman, it's Maxwell, it's Jeremy Lane, it's Sarah Simon, it's Sherman, obviously, Chancellor Thomas, Maragos, Jaron Johnson, and then there's Ron Parker. So it's like, okay, that's why he didn't get on the team, because that's like an all-world defensive backfield. So he is someone I think he could be. If Jeremy Lane doesn't sound like he might not even play next year, because it's a pretty small turnaround, but he is someone I think he will be a pretty vital piece, because obviously they brought him in Antoine Winfield a few years ago as well. Another ex-Seahawk, Brandon Browner. There's talk today that the Patriots might try and move him on if well, I think he's gone for a restructure and they might try and move him on. Would you welcome him back to Seattle, or?
That's kind of tough. I mean, he with the suspensions, and you saw how the people behind him were ready to step up. I mean, there is a relationship between him and some of the Seahawks still on the team, and so there probably wouldn't be any animosity there. They would welcome him back, but he should command some decent money on the market. And again, I'm not big on the Seahawks committing a lot to anyone in free agency, especially with the likes of the big contracts that we've seen in the past couple of days. So I would let Browner make his way elsewhere.
Yeah, now I think I don't know how much his cap hit is in New England this year, but now they've let Revis test the market and let the Jets maneuver themselves in position to get him back. It doesn't add up. If I don't see them getting rid of both Browner and Revis, especially after the money they give to McCourty, you'd expect he'd only stay there if one or both of them were staying, really. But so it's something to watch. So I'd love Brandon Brown to come back. I think he is exactly. They have a Brandon Brown sized vacancy in the 53. So, but again, it's the price is right kind of thing. So it would be something to watch, and most definitely would be interested. I don't think Sherman, Thomas, and Chancellor will allow Pete Carroll and John Schneider not to be interested in bringing BB back. So, obviously, the last few weeks since the Super Bowl, Dan Quinn went to Atlanta. What do you make of Chris Richard being promoted up to DC?
I like it. I mean, Richard coming up, been in the Seahawks system, developed a lot of late round draft pick cornerbacks who are now at elite status. He knows how to develop player personnel, and I mean, he was deemed fit to succeed Quinn. So I say give him a shot. He did great with the secondary. Should do similarly with the whole defense.
Well, his CV took a boost with the Maxwell money, really, didn't it? Because he's turned a 6th round pick into a $60 million man. So there's not a lot else he walked into a room and goes, "Oh, there you go, I did that." So there you go, here's your job, pretty much. I think the interesting one is what they do with the secondary, how hands-on he will be with the secondary, because also that is Pete Carroll's area of expertise on the defense, isn't it? So it would be interesting to see what happens with the secondary next year. And more interestingly would be the defensive line, because that was Dan Quinn's forte, and obviously with all the hand fighting that they preached and coached, and which was fascinating to read up on the last few weeks. It is an interesting transition, which will be the next couple of years, because I can't remember where Gus Bradley came from, like position coach. So I don't know if the transition was the same with him and Quinn, but Chris Richard's been with Carroll for years. He was a Seahawks draft pick, which is something I wasn't aware of until I looked into it. But so he is. It would be interesting to see what happens with that defense, because obviously the talent's still there, if not a little limping at the minute, but it's definitely still there. So in the next few weeks, obviously with all the free agency stuff in the next few days, do you expect Seattle to be active in the next few days, or do you think they'll just wait it out and let the top 10 teams, the teams picking the top 10 splash money around and then just pick up bargains?
money. Now other teams who have bigger needs are going to be very anxious to get in on the action. Schneider, taking a little bit of a backseat, let the initial waves, roll over and calm down, and then see what's out there. I mean, there will be guys in Seahawks areas of need who are cheaper, and so just take a calmer approach. Don't get caught up in a big wars because the Seahawks just can do it. So yeah, in the next couple of days.
No, that is something I think is going to wait out because, I mean, if you look at the minutes flying about in a minute, it is incredible. Obviously, the new TV deals kicked in, the cap limit's gone up and everything, so you'd expect it. I mean, I don't know how the Dolphins can afford the Ndamukong Suh for the money they've given because I don't think they had that much cap space in the first place, did they? So that was, I mean, it's a fantastic signing for them with Cameron Wake and obviously got Brent Grimes. So that defense now is virgin. If it plays as well as it looks on paper, then Tom Brady's getting stepped on. So what do you make of some of the free agents the moves that have not gone down but have been confirmed so far, like Macklin, and what did you make of the Sean McCoy trade?
Oh, the Sean McCoy baffled me. I mean, first of all, you don't see a lot of trades in the NFL. It's all just straight up free agent signings and things like that. And then have a straight up trade with no draft picks involved. That was incredibly baffling. And you're giving away the third best running back since he was drafted in 2009 for a linebacker who just tore his ACL last year, and you have no idea how he's going to turn out. Alonso went to Oregon, he played under Kelly, so Kelly knows the talent there, but still, that's an awful lot to give away just for one linebacker.
It wasn't just so much that they traded McCoy because if it was $9.5 million his cap hit was, so it made sense at that point. But when you expect to see Kiko Alonso and 2 draft picks, maybe, because like I said, Alonso's had a knee injury. He did well in 2013. He did play really well, but the Sean McCoy is. You'd think he'd be richer than that, really, trade. And like you say, it's not very often you see a player for player one. What do you make of? What are your thoughts on San Francisco? They are going about their off season in a strange way, aren't they?
Letting Upati go, I mean, who's one of the steadiest left guards I've ever seen, and picking up an aging Darnell Dockett who hasn't really produced much on the line, especially with that ACL. I mean, and now, there are rumors that Gore's gone and then he might turn around and come back. I don't know what's going on there, but just letting guys go left and right.
Then there's all the Kaepernick stuff last night, which I wouldn't trust Jed York saying anything if I was a San Francisco fan, but because he said Harbaugh wasn't going anywhere, and Harbaugh was out the door before the last game was finished. So, and obviously with Patrick Willis, looks like he's retiring, which is a shame to be honest, because he was one of probably the top 3 middle linebackers during his 10 or so. Well, not even that, but how old is he? 30, 31? So that is a shame.
Gotta be around.
They are in the full rebuild mode here now with no Gore. So they've got Carlos Hyde, and he looked quite good, but they're being overtaken by the Rams and Cardinals, who apparently have just signed Iopati. So that is going to be fun watching Darnell Dockett against Iopati on the opposite side next year.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be less of a rivalry between the 49ers and the Seahawks. There's now a bit of a talent disparity, at least on paper.
Yeah.
So
it looks like
into the Cardinals.
I still think. They've released Jake Long and they center tonight, but the Rams, if they get a quarterback, if Mariota falls to 10, that is a good-looking team, especially defensive line, and then they've got Ogletree and Laurinaitis, and the DBs are just Seahawkian in some ways. But also, let's go back to the Seahawks because that's enough of talking about San Francisco. Russell Wilson still hasn't signed his contract. I don't think many of us expected to happen by now anyway. Do you think he'll take the discount, or I mean, because John Schneider said they were going to be inventive. So do you think that will happen, or do you think he's getting as much as he can?
I mean, I think the idea of being big idea out there is giving him all that money guaranteed of, and so make it easy the couple of years, backload for however long that contract. I mean, he's a young guy; it could be like 8 to 10 contract, but
yeah, like it's something that with all the talk of the fully guaranteed, that is something which you could actually see Russell. I think we said on the first Hangout a few weeks ago. It's something, if any quarterback's going to do it, it is Russell Wilson, and that's not pandering to the guy. It just seems how that would be, but I think they should pay him. I think they're going to pay him. The money is going to be astronomical, but there won't be a Seahawks fan who'll begrudge him a penny, but it will be interesting to see how they stack it up, because Schneider seemed to be pretty insistent that it was going to be different. I think he called it unique or something, but it is going to be something to watch when it comes down, because the money. Because I think it's next year that cap hits of Sherman, Thomas, and Chancellor all spike up, and then you're paying maybe in Irvin as well. You're paying Sweezy. There's going to be some tough decisions to make if Wilson does sign a traditional mega bucks deal. So it will be interesting to see what they do.
Absolutely, and I hope it occurs fairly soon, because all this mystery is starting to get to me.
Yeah, it's one of it. We're just waiting. I mean, you never know. It could have come out in the last 5 minutes, but Seahawks don't seem to play by the book when it comes to announcing things. They just do it on Friday nights at midnight and stuff. So
yeah, very true.
You never know when it's going to happen. But so with all those deals in 2016, obviously we've got a year and a half to talk about them. Do you think there'll be any surprise cuts coming in the next few days?
Oh gosh, I hope not. I mean, I have so much faith in Schneider that I haven't really given any thought to major cuts.
No, the one I keep going back to is Tony McDaniel.
Okay.
If they can, I think his cap hit is about $4 million next year. So if they can obviously get Jordan Hill healthy, Mebane should be healthy. Mm-hmm. I think he said by minicamp himself. I think he self said that. And obviously they can hit it in the draft and maybe free agency. It's a position which, you think about it, they've churned over the 5 years in Seattle, and $4 or $5 million for. I mean, McDaniel's done, especially when Mebane dropped down. Everyone seems to step up. Him and Williams especially seem to step up. But $4 or $5 million for a position which, although it's vital, obviously in the Seahawks defensive scheme, it's a lot of money. With the draft picks, interior linemen in this draft are interesting. There's Preston Smith at Mississippi State, who he could be there at 31, and that'd be a decision to make. So I think if there's anyone, I think McDaniel would be the one. Obviously Carpenter's gone. He's a free agent. They've not tendered Ricardo Lockett, which is interesting. We'll get on to that in a minute. But I think if there's anyone, I think it would be McDaniel.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. $4 or $5 million cap hit. You want to have Jordan Hill in a more prominent role too, especially when he comes back. And I think Mebane just has seniority in that lone guy from the 2007 draft.
I mean, it's only him and Ryan. And is it him, Ryan, and Unger? Are the only three left from before from before Schneider and Carroll. So that's gonna be a weird. That must be a tough move to make when the day comes when you have to move on Mebane, because it probably is coming. It could come next year, but it probably is coming with Mebane. And having, like you said, having been there for so long, especially with how they churned the roster up in the first year or so, it's pretty impressive that he stuck around. And I mean, before he got injured, there was very few interior 4-3 defensive tackles playing better than him in the league, probably. Most of this JJ Watt, but that's a 3-4, and he's JJ Watt. So
Yeah.
Who's the player I mentioned?
Ricardo Lockett.
Ricardo Lockett, that's the one. They have attended him today. It's like midnight here. It's too late. They have attended him here today. So are you surprised by that? I think it was only 400,000 he was due. So are you surprised that they're letting him initially walk, or is it not too surprised?
I wasn't actually too surprised by it. Him and Walters were not tendered. Though Lockett's a really good special teams gunner, I mean, he just flies down the field. He's not really an asset in the receiving core, and though he is cheap already, I mean, you could always bring him back for special teams with basically the same contract. I can't imagine a huge market for him. I mean, he is on special team. And I think the last play of the Super Bowl will take a hit when people try to view him as a receiver.
Yeah,
so,
you can't really walk into a negotiating room and say, I know it. I mean, it's a team decision when you're exclusive rights, isn't it? So, well, I was quite surprised. I wasn't surprised they let Walters go, because he was only really a punt return, wasn't he? He didn't exactly set the world alight doing that this year. So, but Lockett is a surprise. It also bodes well for Chris Matthews if you look at it, because they're not going to draft probably more than 2 wide receivers if they draft 1. So it bodes well for Chris Matthews and how they see him progressing. Obviously, they saw him progress enough to see something on tape that he got 4 catches, 100 yards in the Super Bowl. But that was the first thing I thought, was not Lockett. It's a surprise. It's Chris Matthews now has a viable shot at least the number 4 spot on the wide receiver depth chart next year.
Yeah, absolutely great Super Bowl performance, and they kind of hid his ability that week leading up to the Super Bowl, to try and hide him from the Patriots, from seeing what he can do. So I really hope they develop him. I mean, they kind of just stuck him on special teams and left him there just to do his job. I think the Super Bowl really showed what he's capable of.
Yeah, it showed that, but it also showed that, I mean, he only ran 1 route really, didn't he? So with that body, with that skill set he clearly has, if you get him more refined and coach him up, especially if you go and get a Julius Thomas or a Jordan Cameron. But so that's the first thing I thought when I read that earlier. I think, well, that says quite a lot, because obviously Paul Richardson seems quite positive on his recovery from injury as well. So, but it is going back to the tight end conversation. Past Cameron and Thomas, who do you reckon will be? Do you reckon there'll be anyone else out there, or of the tight ends, or do you think it'll just be those go elsewhere? Just draft.
Yeah, beyond those 2, I haven't really thought about anyone else. Charles Clay came up in a couple of conversations I've seen. I think he might be bit by someone else. Yeah, other than those 2, I mean, tight end's kind of weak in both the NFL in general and this upcoming draft class.
It's like Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson have ruined rookie quarterbacks for the Gronkowski and Graham up to tight ends, haven't they? Really, so it is something where if teams try and get a Gronkowski on the cheap, and you can't get a Gronkowski on the cheap because it's like Marshall Lynch, they don't exist. So yeah, so will you be tuning in? Will you be watching all the free agency stuff? Be official?
I'll be doing my best to keep track of it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's good. I was talking to Charles, who's the Arizona team manager earlier, and he was like, "It's going to be busy. I don't think you realise how busy we're going to be." So it's something I'm looking forward to. Just one more thing before.
Oh yeah, it's always a fun time.
Jermaine Kearse got a $2 million tender, and Ken Arthur on Field Goals wrote that it was too much. I think he wrote. I can't remember what he wrote, but too much. $2 million for Jermaine Kearse doesn't add up, does it?
No, I mean, I like Kearse as a run blocker. Obviously, a lot of improvements need to be made as a receiver, but I mean, the receiving core has really helped the run game on the outside when Lynch bounces it out towards the sideline, and you can't underestimate, or you can't overestimate that when you got receivers. So $2 million might seem like a lot on paper, but people are getting a lot richer playing sports nowadays. So $2 million actually shouldn't seem like far too much.
That is a very good point. I mean, like I said, Jeremy Macklin got $11 million for a year and a half of good production under Chip Kelly, who's supposed to be some kind of genius. Chip Kelly as GM is a lot more entertaining as Chip Kelly as coach, I think, at the minute, because he's making some strange decisions. And if they bet the earth on Mariota, that would be something else as well. But yeah, I think we've covered everything that there is. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about Seahawks related, or
I think we hit it all on the head.
Yeah. So tomorrow we'll kicks off at 7 o'clock Eastern. It starts all the free agency. So I'd expect quite a few days. So if anyone who's watching this on live, which is one person watching this, that's pretty impressive. One person. There's one person. So if anyone watches this live, just make sure to keep on check on Pro Football Spot and the Seahawks. There'll be 4 or 5 articles a day, more than likely, coming out. So hopefully Julius Thomas and Andre Johnson, that'll be a decent free agency, wouldn't it?
It would for sure.
Yeah. Then they must turn the Xbox off, I think. Yeah. All right, cheers for that, Ken. We'll do it in a few weeks, closer to the draft and when free agency has died down. But for this PFS Google Hangout for the Seahawks, that's it. Thank you very much, Ken.
Have a good one, Stuart.
And you, mate.